Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who ratings analysis video. This particular video is going to be of interest to those that watched and enjoyed Gladiators when it returned to BBC TV in the early part of 2024. And in this YouTube video, I'm going to be comparing the numbers of both overnight and plus sevens for Series 14, Season 40, Series 1, the Ncuti Gatwa debut series of Doctor Who, with Gladiators that also screened on BBC One in 2024. Now, for those outside the UK, you might not know Gladiators or its predecessor, American Gladiators. But Gladiators was a very popular entertainment program in the 1990s on the BBC's commercial rival ITV. Gladiators went away for a little while. It came back briefly on satellite channel Sky One, and now it is being produced for BBC One on Saturday nights, and it debuted in the early part of 2024. The Gladiators are a cast of impressive athletes. There's some wonderful characters from Legend and Viper, some inspirational people like Fury, Dynamite, lots of great athletes and personalities who have been made stars overnight because of the success of Gladiators. They compete against members of the public, the contenders, and the contenders then try and score as many points off the Gladiators in a competition against a fellow contender. Over the course of 11 episodes, we got through preliminary rounds, semi-finals, and then the final culminated in the crowning of two contender champions for male and female categories. It was quite popular, and the BBC celebrated its popularity in terms of the viewing figures it was achieving in their various news outlets at the time. But in this video, I'm going to take those numbers and have a look and compare them to the numbers that Doctor Who managed to achieve. So, we've covered Series 14 ratings, both overnight and 7-day numbers from Space Babies through to Empire of Death, on separate videos on this channel. So if you haven't watched them, feel free to go back and have a look and see where those numbers come from and how they've been formulated. But in this video, I'm going to be looking at Gladiators Series 1. Now, it debuted on BBC One on the 13th of January 2024, achieving an impressive overnight figure of 6.03 million for the first episode. There's, as we've seen with Doctor Who, plenty of interest initially in a new series of a programme, and we see a drop-off start to happen. So 5.4 million tuned in to episode 2, 4.76 million to episode 3, episode 4, 4.46 million, 4.18 million for episode 5, and then bucking the trend, 4.27 million, so an increase slightly to episode 6. Episode 7, another drop, 3.78 million. 2nd of March, 4.08 million. The 9th of March, 3.36 million for the lowest overnight figure of the series. And then following a week off, interest is reignited. People miss it for a week and so come back. 4 million watched episode 10 for the semi-finals, and then the final itself on the 30th of March achieved an impressive overnight figure of 4.22 million. Of course, we don't just take the overnight figures on this channel, we also look at our plus 7 days. So these are the number of people that either recorded it in some form and watched it over the course of 7 days, or used the iPlayer or other streaming services to catch up with the program. So with the popularity and the buzz that was achieved by episode 1, an impressive 8.37 million people caught up with episode 1 over the course of 7 days. So that's our overnight figure who watched it live, and those who caught up with it over the course of the next 7 days. So an impressive 2.34 million people added on top of our overnight figure. The plus 7 for episode 2 was 7 million, 7.01 million to be precise. 6.48 million tuned into episode 3 over 7 days, 6.58 million. So an increase on the week before, despite a drop on the overnight. when comparing episode 4 to episode 3. Episode 5, 5.83 million, 5.89 million for episode 6, so again another increase. 5.48 million for episode 7, 5.41 for episode 8, episode 9, 4.55 million. Again, that week off saw a little boost in the rating. 5.27 million tuned in for the semi-final, and then 5.39 million, an impressive plus 7-day figure for the series finale. So what does that look in graphical terms? Well, it looks like this. So peak for the debut episode, a general downward trajectory the further through the series they got, but then that week off sees an increase viewership, people coming back to watch the semi-final and then the final, getting impressive figures for Gladiators. And we can see how all the plus 7 days exceed that achieved by Doctor Who, both in plus 7 and overnight form. In fact, our overnight figures were consistently impressive for Gladiators and above what Doctor Who managed to achieve in 7 days, with the exception of episode 7 and episode 9, the 3.78 million and 3.36 million dropping below levels that Doctor Who was managing to achieve. Similarly, the semi-final at 4 million for an overnight was just below Space Babies and 73 yards for plus 7 days. But you can see how Gladiators on overnight outperforming Doctor Who's overnights, and even outperforming a lot of the plus 7 day figures that Doctor Who achieved just on overnights alone. So really strong debut series of Gladiators, much stronger it would look like on paper than series 14 of Doctor Who. We've also got to bear in mind the time of year, so January through to March, more likely to have inclement weather in the UK, more people are going to be indoors at home watching television than they would be for the May-June transmission timing of Doctor Who. So again, important to bear in mind the time of year, and it might be particularly relevant in 2025 if Doctor Who was to move to a January or February slot in the schedules rather than a May-June timing of broadcast. We shall wait to see on that, but very strong performance from Gladiators in terms of our raw numbers. But as we like to compare on this channel, we don't just look at the raw numbers, we also look at overnight shares. And again, you can see how Gladiators was consistently performing very strongly, and certainly on the whole better than Doctor Who managed to achieve. So Doctor Who's highest percentage share was for its debut episode at 25.7. That only beats 2 episodes of Gladiators in terms of episode share. Again, higher high for Gladiators and a lower low achieved for Doctor Who. So for Doctor Who, the high isn't quite as high as Gladiators and the low is lower. Interesting numbers to look at there. We will come up with an average later on in this video and see how the two stack up. But one particular thing of interest, as I was finding the overnight numbers for Gladiators, I came across a top 100 network overnight chart. So all the network programs shown over 7 days, their overnight numbers were compared and they were ranked based on which had the highest overnight numbers. And you can see how Gladiators was very consistent for its first 6 episodes within that chart. First twice, a low of 6, 2 3s and a 5. Very impressive chart. And then again, second half of the series, not too bad, 12th, 5th, 16th, and then peaking up again for the conclusion of the series, 3rd and 1st. Whereas Doctor Who, in the same chart, same format, so network programs, so your conventional channels, I guess you'd call them for the UK, so your BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, all these network shows, Doctor Who only hit a high of 20th, which is clearly lower than anything Gladiators managed to achieve, and it also hit a particular low of 52. So again, the high is not as high and the low is lower for Doctor Who, and nowhere near the level of consistency that Gladiators managed to achieve across its 11 episodes when compared to Doctor Who's 8. Another chart we obviously look at is our +7, so our BARB +7 chart. Again, really good consistency for Gladiators across 11 episodes. High of 1st for the opening episode and a low of 8th. All of which beats Doctor Who, which only had a high of 9th in this chart and hit a low of 25th. So again, in terms of the +7 chart position, Gladiators clearly outperforming Doctor Who. Let's have a look at those averages then and make direct comparisons. So the average overnight rating for Gladiators came to 4.41 million across the 11 episodes. For series 14 of Doctor Who, 2.27 million. So quite a bit lower. Our overnight share, again 30.5% for Gladiators, and series 14 of Doctor Who 21.2%. So again, quite a bit lower. This top 100 overnight chart that we've started looking at, 5th our average for Gladiators, and series 14 of Doctor Who down in 38th. So yeah, quite a big drop. Our 7-day rating for Gladiators just over 6 million, 6.02. But for series 14 of Doctor Who, 3.71 million. So yeah, nearly half that number. Not great. And our +7 chart, 5th for Gladiators and 17th for series 14. So again, we've got to bear in mind the time of year. Very different programs. Doctor Who's obviously was intended to be a family show, but Gladiators is perhaps, in my opinion, a bit better at marketing it itself as a family show, and these numbers correspond to that. I will once again reiterate the caveat of Gladiators possibly at a stronger time of year in order to get better numbers, because it's late winter, early spring, more likely to have people in watching television, whereas late spring, early summer for Doctor Who, possibly fewer people watching television, but this is why we have a look at our shares and our chart positions as well as the raw numbers. So in every metric, unfortunately, Doctor Who is nowhere near the level that Gladiators managed to achieve, and if it's going to be a toss-up in the January of next year, 2025, for BBC One schedulers as to what they want to put on their channel in January for a new season of programming, I have a feeling they're going to plumb for Gladiators. Lots to think about there going forward, but in the meantime, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, give it a like and feel free to share it. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Please go back and have a look at some of the other videos you might find of interest, and when you subscribe to the channel, you'll be alerted to the next video, which will be another comparison for Doctor Who, but in that video I'll be looking at Doctor Who versus the other BBC programs that were shown at the same time of year but in 2023. So how is Doctor Who doing in 2024 when compared to BBC One shows in 2023? But that's for next time. I hope you enjoyed this video covering Doctor Who versus Gladiators. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.